It's June 27. In the headlines, in local news, National Summer School Program revised, and a look at what's being done by Jamaica's Anti-Human Trafficking Unit. In business news, Stationery and Office Supplies Limited expands into the Cayman Islands. Regionally, Antigua and Barbuda takes historic lead at the Organization of American States. Internationally, Florida's governor promises major crackdown on illegal immigration. And in sports, an update on West Indies men and women cricket matches. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Ministry of Education and Youth has revised its National Summer School Program to what is now called the National Summer Academy 2023. This is part of the ministry's efforts to provide extended learning opportunities for students currently in grades 5 and 6 who still require additional support to recover from the negative effects of the disruptions in their learning journey caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. A bulletin issued by the ministry explains that the newly revised summer program is designed to target grade 5 students who attained almost mastery or non-mastery on the 2022 sitting of the grade 4 numeracy and literacy tests, and grade 6 students who have been identified as reading below the grade level and have been recommended for educational assessments by their schools or class teacher. The targeted grade 5 students will have access to a suite of learning resources such as e-resources, printed and electronic learning kits, and videos. Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, Darrell Vaz, says it is important for laws governing the transport sector to be up to date, reasonable and enforced. He was speaking at a recently held transport conference.
The proposal in the new Transport Authority Act 22 is that individuals will renew on the date of their birthday, and in the case of companies on the anniversary date of its incorporation.
He urged private operators in the public transportation system to comply with the Road Traffic Act.
Private operators in the public transport system must recognize that the public pays for and expects quality service delivered with courtesy and in a manner compliant with the laws of the land, chiefly the Road Traffic Act. The culture of law-breaking, recklessness, and lack of care for the safety of passengers must stop, and I will see to that.
The Transportation Conference brought together various stakeholders to discuss the challenges and opportunities facing the sector. Minister Vaz said public transport is an integral part of Jamaica's economy, and bringing all the players together is critical to transforming the transportation landscape. We now look at a special feature on how Jamaica's security forces have been combating what some may describe as the worst crime against humanity, the trafficking of persons. Local law enforcement agencies participated in a regional operation targeted at interrupting this illicit activity. Detective Sergeant Kevin Stratton shares some of the insight into the work of the Jamaica Constabulary Force's Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit.
I'm Kevin Strawn, Detective Sergeant of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. I'm a sub-officer assigned to the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit based at the Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch. We are here in St. James in relation to an operation that is conducted within the Caribbean by CARICOM Impacts called Operation Carisika. Its main focus is on the trafficking of persons and smuggling of migrants within the region. And it's in partnership with EARCOP. Persons might be asking what is EARCOP. EARCOP is a task force that is in joint relation with the JCF, the JDF, and Immigration, and several other agencies. We are here at the Donald Sangsters International Airport, and we are carrying out simultaneous operation at the Norman Manley International Airport. Very important because we realize that Many of our people within the Caribbean are suffering. They are being exploited by persons within and outside the region, and they are also manipulated. Some even during their movements across the border are killed. Our main focus is in combating this type of illicit crime and also to rescue persons who are found to be victims. Our focus is on a border control of the region. It has been since the 22nd of May and it will end on the 26th. So Jamaica has become signatory to the Convention of Illegal Migrants and Trafficking of Persons since 2005. Since then, the JCF has put in an anti-trafficking in person unit since 2006, and from that time we have put some 30-odd cases before the court. We presently have 12 convictions, and we are doing our best to monitor this type of crime within the region. We collaborate with other countries across the Caribbean, and we investigate this crime to the best of our ability with the resources we got. Yes, as you mentioned, the case in Clarendon, this is where an Indian national was brought to the island and being exploited. And also an Asian, a young girl, only 13 years old, was brought here by a fisherman to Jamaica when she was just 13. We rescued her when she was 15 years old. And that one stood out in my mind because she was also raped by the offender. And he got 15 years in prison. This crime is an hidden crime. Persons don't willingly come out and report this type of crime. You don't see it on faces. So you have to get close to the person. You have to be in constant dialogue with those persons. You might see someone who is withdrawn. You used to talk to the person, used to associate with the person. All of a sudden that person is withdrawn, looking sad, showing some signs of physical abuse. Those are signs to look for. As it relates to foreign nationals, we know that sometimes their travel documents are being withheld by their employers. These are some of the signs that we look for.
In this week's Living Healthy, we focus on mental health in athletes. Sports is critical for all-around health, both physical and mental. Mental health promotion is a key component of the sport for health. Sport and physical activity provide major benefits for mental health, from exercise to the teamwork and camaraderie that are essential elements of many sports.
I think the beginning was very confusing because you don't know what it is or where it's coming from.
In my body and in my head, I couldn't escape it. It was this overwhelming fatigue that I could never shake off.
It's hurting you, you cannot sleep, it's exhausting.
For years I didn't know what it was. People asked me, how does it feel to be in your head?
When I describe my anxiety, and it's different for everyone, for me it's a massive tightening of the chest, like my whole upper body just gets constricted, like it's hard to breathe.
Having ADHD, I'd say it's like everything and nothing coming to your head all at once. It's like voices just screaming for my attention constantly.
Everyone has difficult moments, even professional athletes. I always get hateful comments in the internet. It was affecting me sleeping sometimes because every time you go to bed, you check your phone.
So depression for me felt like this negative energy that was really heavy inside of me, but also emptied me at the same time. I felt numb.
I was feeling suffocated, almost like I was drowning. You spend a lot of time blaming yourself.
I felt heavy, weighed down, and I just wanted it out of my body. I wanted it gone. I just knew I had to put my hand up and reach for help.
The effects of playing sports, it's such a freeing experience.
The moment I step into the rings, the one time my mind slows down and I have clarity.
Every time I finish practice, I feel more happy.
Just what exercise does for my well-being, not only physically but more mentally.
Calms my mind and helps me to live the life that I want to live.
Free in the mind from the stress that I have outside the court.
By talking to professionals, by tracking my own thoughts, and listening to myself a little bit more.
I tell myself that I will never doubt myself again and nothing is impossible for me.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Local stationery and office furniture provider Stationery and Office Supplies Limited (SOS) has expanded its regional reach. The supplies company formed a partnership with Cayman Islands-based company Apex Group. The new partnership will see SOS supplying products from its furniture lines Evolve and Image to Apex, which specializes in a wide array of products for commercial and residential properties. This SOS Apex partnership will not only further advance SOS's regional footprint, but will complement the Apex Group's expansion into interior office solutions. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, June 26, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.91. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $118.76. The pound sterling traded for $194.83, and the euro sold for an average of $171.75. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 1,421 points. The junior market index advanced by 13 points. The combined market index advanced by 1,449 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 2,765 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 109 stocks, of which 51 advanced, 36 declined, and 22 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Blue Power Group Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, and Access Financial Services Limited. Trading firm were Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, Siboney Group Limited, and Image Plus Consultants Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 4 million units, Trans Jamaican Highway Limited, and Supreme Ventures Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund posted 362 shares. Zero Securities traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In regional business, in Trinidad and Tobago, Minister of Public Administration Alison West says there are challenges facing the public service, including poor customer service, and these are to be improved.
Rest assured that we know that there are challenges and that there's a need for fundamental improvement across the public service in customer service delivery.
Public Administration Minister Alison West speaking on some of the challenges facing the country's public service. She says her ministry is working to implement initiatives to create a more efficient public service.
Ensuring that we work alongside partners like the Inter-American Development Bank, the United Nations, and the private sector, we are seeking to ensure that the benefits of digitalization empower the public and private sectors and launches Trinidad and Tobago into a future full of hope.
Minister West notes that building a competitive business environment is also key to these goals. The minister was speaking at the Public Service Day Symposium and Award Ceremony held at the Hyatt Regency Hotel on Friday. The event also included a panel discussion in which Trade Minister Paula Gopi-Schoon was a participant. She says her ministry is currently enhancing services to make it easier for the public to access.
We are doing another project, which is an enhancement of the single electronic window portal. So whereas then we had 43 e-services, 6 of which have migrated onto other platforms, we now have 13 under that particular platform. We are now adding another 18 new e-services.
This, the minister explains, will not just include the Trade Ministry, but also improve services at other ministries.
In international business, U.S. stocks fell after Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell signaled last week that more interest rate hikes were on the way.
U.S. stocks closed lower Monday, with large technology names like Alphabet, Meta Platforms, and Tesla falling sharply. Alphabet and Tesla suffered analyst downgrades. This comes ahead of several economic reports and comments from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. The Dow slid a hair, while the S&P 500 dropped about 0.5%, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ gave back more than 1%. Data on inflation, orders for durable goods, and consumer sentiment are due out this week, while Powell speaks with European banking colleagues. Last week, he signaled more rate hikes are likely. Currently, the market expects another quarter-point move at the Fed's July meeting to push rates to about 5.5%. CapTrust Chief Investment Officer Mike Vogelzang said the central bank may have to go higher than that to make a more meaningful dent in inflation.
I don't think the market's pricing in 6%. I don't think the stock market's pricing in 6.5% to 7%. We just don't know yet what might happen for the Fed to get those rates down. Why hasn't the economy slowed down if we've gone from, 525 basis points of interest rate increases? Mm-hmm. The economy's softened at the margin, but the underlying strength is profound. It's incredibly powerful. It's great news for that, but not great news for inflation. And that's the challenge, and that's the difficulty the Federal Reserve has.
Stocks on the move included Pfizer, which declined nearly 4%. After the drug maker said it's discontinuing the development of an experimental obesity and diabetes drug due to elevated liver enzymes in patients in clinical studies. And Carnival, which dropped nearly 8%. The cruise operator forecast third-quarter earnings below Wall Street expectations.
In market data for oil prices slipped ahead of data shedding light on U.S. appetite for fuel during the summer driving season. Brent crude futures were down $1.36 at $72.82 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate futures fell $1.31 to $68.06. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Antigua and Barbuda has taken lead on a historic declaration on climate change at a meeting of the Organization of American States, with the Twin Islands states' ambassador to the hemispheric grouping, Sir Ronald Saunders, drafting the original declaration. The move is part of efforts to widen the alliance of states jointly seeking remedies for loss and damages to their economies. More from ABS News.
I describe this declaration as historic because it is the first time that active member states of two regional groups, CARICOM and SICA, are joining together to issue a shared declaration.
Antigua and Barbuda's top diplomat in Washington, D.C., presenting a declaration on behalf of the 20 Caribbean and Central American countries after securing unanimous support. The 20 are the 14 independent members of CARICOM, in addition to the Dominican Republic and 5 Central American countries, Costa Rica, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Panama. Sir Ronald had a draft of the declaration which calls for decisive action in response to the perils of climate change.
We make this declaration on our own behalf, but with a profound understanding that no nation of this hemisphere of the world or the world is immune from the impacts of climate change. We are all in this together.
Export of Bahamian goods into Britain is up, according to British High Commissioner Thomas Hartley. Our News has the details.
In 2021, numbers out of our British High Commission said the existing pool of exports was small, totaling about 5 million British pounds sterling. Hartley says those numbers have actually started to climb since last year.
The British and the Bahamas trade is increasing, and I'm really pleased to see that. It was, I think the figure you said was 5 million last year up to 31st of December. It's now up 20% at 6 million for Bahamian exports, but actually much more exciting is Bahamian export services, which is basically Brits coming on holiday to the Bahamas. That's up 150%. So it's up really, really very, very strong. And actually in the UK has a big trade deficit with the Bahamas. We owe you loads of money because all the money's flowing this way at the minute. But it still is well below the 2012 peak.
Hartley says that decline can be partially attributed to the British High Commission being closed for 20 years. He says they've been busy helping Bahamian businesses, though, prepare for export and addressing some of the speed bumps that can get in the way for smaller businesses.
Things like the logistics route between the UK and the Bahamas often goes via the US and therefore via mainland Europe because there's not the bulk of trade. And actually by talking to some companies that are really up for solving that problem, it's how do we create that direct route which really drives down prices. That's one. The other has been trying to implement the UK CARICOM EPA, the trade deal. And what has been absolutely incredible is that the Bahamas has been one of the fastest to implement the tariff reductions.
As Guyana seeks to find ways of ensuring that more local benefits from the nascent oil and gas sector, the country has a local content law in place, which sets that delicate balance between foreign companies' operations and investing and using local goods and services. Because there were mixed views on that law within the Caribbean community CARICOM last year, the bloc is exploring how any country's local content provisions, be it laws or policies, can be supported within the region in keeping with the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas.
The issue of local content is such an important one in the community that the heads of government actually have mandated a working group on local content to make recommendations regarding, amongst other things, the development and application of local content legislation in the context of the revised treaty. And I stress in the context of the revised treaty because initiatives like this have to be situated within the context of the obligations that member states have assumed under the treaty and the framework that the treaty may provide for member states to exercise flexibilities. And so what I would say, I don't want to make a definitive pronouncement about how the local content legislation of Guyana is situated within the context of the treaty. The court may, at some point, have to engage on that issue, and I'm sure they will, whether it is through its advisory jurisdiction or otherwise, provide guidance. But I just wanted to reiterate that there's also, the issue is more systemically being addressed, not just about Guyana's local content legislation, but this policy tool overall. It's something that's occupying the attention of the community because it is clear that there are mechanisms like this that countries feel that they should have at their disposal. And so the issue really is, how do you develop and apply measures like these within the context of the revised treaty?
In international news, we look at the United States of America. Presidential hopeful and Republican governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, on Monday proposed a sweeping crackdown on illegal immigration. In his first major policy rollout of his 2024 presidential campaign, DeSantis said he plans to end birthright citizenship and build a wall at the southern border, resurfacing two ideas once championed by his chief rival for the GOP nomination, Donald Trump. Speaking in Eagle Pass on Monday, DeSantis said he would allow the use of deadly force against people who attempt to cross into the U.S. by cutting through border structures. In sports, the West Indies women took a 1-0 lead in the 3-match CG United One-Day International Series, defeating Ireland by 58 runs at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground in St. Lucia. Winning the toss and batting first, Captain Hayley Matthews led the West Indies, striking her 4th ODI century of 109, while Stephanie Taylor notched her 40th half-century, 55, and Chanel Henry brought up her maiden ODI 50 in 38 deliveries as the West Indies posted 297 for 6 in their 50 overs. Cara Moore was the pick of the Irish bowlers with figures of 10, 0, 60 and 3. The Netherlands dealt a heavy hand on a sloppy West Indies outfit, taking their final group game via a super over in the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifiers in Zimbabwe.
Needing a win to bolster their chances in the Super Sixes, the West Indies got to 374 for 6 from their 50 overs. Johnson Charles and Brandon King set the platform with a 100-run opening stand, with King getting to 76 and Charles getting to 54. Then came Nicholas Pooran, who smashed 9 fours and 6 sixes on his way to a top score of 104, this being his 2nd century of the World Cup qualifiers. Kimo Paul had a late flourish of 46 from just 25 balls. Needing a towering 375 for victory, the Netherlands were led by Teja Nidamanuru, who shattered the West Indies bowlers, scoring 111. The Dutch needed 3 runs from 2 balls and eventually tied the match at 374 for 9. To the super over they went, where Logan van Beek clobbered 30 runs in that over for the Dutch off Jason Holder's arm. The Windies in response only managed 8 runs and lost their allotted 2 wickets, handing the Netherlands victory in the 1-over eliminator. The Windies still managed to move on to the Super Sixes, where they will begin on 0 points. Only the top 2 teams gain qualification to the Cricket World Cup 2023 in India. Following the game, coach Darren Sammy was critical of his team.
We were kind of poor tactically. And we just thought, because we had 375 on the board, we should win. And it's a lesson for us that you can't take any game of cricket for granted. 2 crucial matches where points on offer, found ourselves in good positions, and we let it slip. We keep on dropping catches, and coming down to the end, some of the decisions we made, it makes you question what was going on. And I could safely say we're the worst fielding team in this competition, and that's, I speak the truth, and I will tell the guys that we cannot continue displaying this type of behavior, attitude, and call ourselves an international team.
He also shared his honest opinion on the current state of the West Indian game.
I have to understand, I'm a very positive thinker, and I understand the journey that I have to take with this team. Sometimes you got to reach rock bottom to come back up. I understand the challenges ahead, and I also understand that things will not change overnight. And it's a true reflection of where our cricket is at the moment, and we have a lot of work to do.
And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.